We spent less than $30,000 in 2023 as a family of two living an early retirement lifestyle. In our mid-20s, by the way. Okay, late 20s now. But I'm going to give you the juicy details on how we spent less than $30,000 using my real life data. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, my name is Zach and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. All right, so here's how much we spent total. And you'll probably hear me say I a lot, just me, but there is two people if I end up saying just I spent this. $29,530. That's the total annual spending for 2023. And if you divide that by 12, that's an average of $2,460 per month. Now, while spending less than $30,000 in 1 year is pretty good, my original budget was actually only $2,300 per month. My total annual budget was $27,600. So this means that I actually spent $1,930 more than what I planned on spending, which would seem to indicate that my budget was a failure this year. However, I do have one trick up my sleeve. And even though I'm wearing short sleeves right now, it's up in there, okay? That trick is up in there. And I like to call that adjustments, adjusting my budget to account for some of these other irregularities. I don't know what to call them, but they're adjustments. So for example, one of these side hustles that I partake in is known as cashback. So I just use these cashback websites for whenever I purchase something online, I get a small portion of that in cashback from these websites, and then it just gets redeposited back into my bank account. And what I do is I take all the cashback that I made from the websites and I adjust that back in my budget. I am allowed to spend at least that amount of cashback in addition to my original planned budget. And in 2023, I made $1,360 of cash back. So I can go ahead and add that cash back to my original planned spending. But there are more adjustments that I make. Sometimes you buy something, but for whatever reason, you get it refunded. And therefore, I count refunds back into my budget because it's money that I didn't really spend because I got it back. So I add my refunds. And in this case, in 2023, I got $685 of refunds. But that's not all. There's another adjustment that I make, and that is credit card cashback rewards. My main strategy with credit cards is usually to get travel rewards because I can use them to travel for free. But sometimes I do just get regular cash back depending on which credit card I'm using at the time or any kind of extra offers that are in addition to my points that I get on my credit cards. And in the year of 2023, I got $468 of cash back on my credit cards. All of those add up to $2,513. Taking those adjustments and that overspending, they even themselves out, and I really did not overspend this year. And I am exactly on track given those adjustments to my budget. Now, by the way, this video is for my 2023 spending. And I did do a video similar to this last year. And if you're curious to see that video, I'm gonna put it at the end of this video, so make sure you stay to the end. Now let's get into the fun part here, and that is breaking down this total spending into budget categories. I'm gonna try to break it down from the most spending to the least spending category. So starting off with the category that I spent the most on this past year, that is travel. I did a lot of traveling in that year, and so I spent out of pocket on travel $7,279. If you average that out over 12 months, that's $607 per month. Now, when I first made my original budget, I budgeted to be about $500 per month of spending, or about $6,000 per year. But as you can see, I spent well over that on my travel this year, and that's okay, as long as my overall budget was good. That $500 per month or $6,000 per year was just a kind of general guideline on how much I want to direct my total spending towards travel. Now, I ended up directing more of my total spending towards travel, and I had a really great time doing it. There are some things that I did when it comes to travel that may have bumped me over that $500 per month. Like for example, this year I had to renew my passports, and you only really have to renew your passports every 10 years, and they are a few $100s. Another thing that significantly increased my travel budget this year was credit card annual fees, because I did quite a lot of travel rewards this year. I spent way more in travel rewards than I did actual out of pocket. However, there was a cost in order to get those points because some of the cards that I did open and get bonuses on had annual fees, and I had to pay those annual fees up front. My next spending category that I'm going to talk about, it's going to be added up, so it's going to be larger than travel, but technically if you divide it up, it would be smaller. So this is my entertainment spending. This would be pretty much everything that is considered optional, like experiences, shopping, going out and eating to restaurants and stuff like that. This total amount of spending, which I'm going to call entertainment, is $9,573. And if you average that out over 12 months, that's $798 per month on average. For this budget category, this is probably the one that went over the most. I originally planned on spending $650 per month for the entertainment category. I don't really have too much of an explanation here on why I went so much over my entertainment category, besides that I spent a lot on entertainment. And this is a very broad category, which includes all the restaurant spending we did. It includes all the shopping we did for, stuff we bought. It includes all of our experiences that were not directly related to, booking something for travel. It includes all of our optional subscriptions, like video streaming and music streaming and things like that. So that is our entertainment category. If it's not included in any of the other categories we're going to talk about, it's probably going to fall under entertainment. Next up, in place number 3, is the home category. And this is pretty much everything to do with, you guessed it, our home. How much we spent on our home in 2023 was $3,999. Yeah, why couldn't it have been one more dollar to make it a nice, smooth $4,000? I don't know. That's just how things go. But if you divide that $3,999 for the entire year, you get $333 per month, which is surprisingly low because this encompassed pretty much everything to do with expenses related to the house. I originally planned for $400 per month. So here are a few reasons why I actually underspent in the home category. So part of my health insurance, we get this kind of rewards card where you get a few $100s per year of rewards on a prepaid debit card. And when I use that prepaid debit card, I kind of put it towards my home expenses because there's only certain things that it can be used on because it's really fussy on what can get charged on that card. But anyway, I usually end up paying some kind of home expense for that. And so it kind of just reduces how much I actually paid out of pocket for the home expenses. Another reason why my home expenses look to be very low this year was that I delayed paying my property taxes. So my property taxes are not due until February of the following year. For example, 2023 property taxes, I was able to pay them in February of 2024. So it's going to show up on 2024's spending rather than in 2023. And then finally, another reason why I think my home expenses were a lot lower was that I did pretty much a lot of DIY and a lot of preventative maintenance myself. And so I have been very lucky to not have any kind of major out-of-pocket home expense this year because of a lot of preventative maintenance that I do and because of a lot of the DIY stuff that I do around the house. So overall, not bad. Fingers crossed that the next year is going to be just as good when it comes to home expenses. If you're appreciating me sharing this with you, all my actual data, my actual numbers, then I would really appreciate it if you took a quick second to hit the like button on this video because it really does help me out and I really do appreciate that. Thank you. All right, but getting on to the next category. This is the category that I've actually heard from you guys out there, maybe the craziest that you think, and that is our grocery bill. So this is how much I spent on groceries in 2023. $3,823 for 2 people. If you average that out, that is $319 per month. And my original planned spending was $350 per month. And I'm keeping that for my next year's budget as well. And a few times that I've mentioned this, there are plenty of you out there that say, wow, $350 is so low for 2 people on groceries. How are you doing this? And to me, it doesn't really seem that hard, but there might be a few tips that I can share with you today to help get yours lower. But I also want to mention here that in my grocery bill, it's not just food items, it's also necessity items. So all those household items like detergent and soap and things like that, that's also included in my grocery bill. So that $350 per month does not just include food, but also those kind of necessity items. Here are a few of the ways that I think that I was able to get my food spending to be under budget this year. First off, I was able to actually purchase a lot of discounted gift cards last year. Specifically, they were Instacart gift cards, and I was able to use them to pick up over at Aldi, and I was able to get gift cards for 20% off, a $100 gift card for $80, for example. So I think that that helped a lot getting my grocery bill down. Another thing that I think makes a huge difference in my overall annual spending in groceries is how I buy my meat. So I buy my meat at Sam's Club, and the price in meat when you buy it in bulk at Sam's Club, per pound, is significantly lower than if you were to buy it in individual packets at even a low-cost grocery store. So here's a very concrete example. For the same kind of ground beef I can buy at Sam's Club for $4.78 per pound is available at Walmart at $6.27 per pound. We can easily eat at least 3 pounds of ground beef per week, especially me. So that's about $1.50 saved per pound times 3 is $4.50 per week. If you did that for every week of the year, 52 weeks, that's $234 per year that's saved by buying it in bulk at Sam's Club. And that's just for one meat item. Imagine doing this for, chicken and pork and steak and whatever kind of meat that you eat. Imagine buying it like that and saving hundreds of dollars per year for each meat item. And I personally eat a lot of protein, so that is a significant amount of savings for me. But that's not all. There are plenty of other ways that I save a lot of money on my grocery bill. For example, anytime I buy a non-perishable item, which has a long shelf life, I will buy it in the bulk packaging because the price per unit is going to be a lot lower usually. Another example would be buying the store brand item rather than the name brand item. And then when it comes to fruits and vegetables, I do eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, but I never buy the organic version. I just buy the regular version. And speaking of fruits and vegetables, another way to save a lot of money over the course of the year is to eat whatever is in season, because usually you're going to see whatever's in season is going to be a very low price. It's going to be the most advertised price when you go into the grocery store. And then finally, I do the majority of my grocery shopping at either Aldi or Walmart because both of them are low-cost grocery stores. I think if most people were to follow those guidelines, you could probably get a pretty similar amount of food spending that I do relatively easily. Now moving on to the next category here, it is one that I do want to mention because it is a big part of my life and I do include it as part of my spending right now, and that is for my business, for on cash flow, for what you're watching right now. How much I spent on cash flow is not very much because it's an online business, so it doesn't require, very much overhead and all that kind of stuff. But I spent $3,678. If you average that out, that is $307 per month. Now, I originally planned to only spend about $250 per month, but I did end up spending a little bit extra on the business this year. The way I personally do it when it comes to business and personal is I track the business expenses exclusively separately on a different kind of accounting software. And then I also include the business spending on my personal. So I have the business credit card linked to my personal Empower dashboard. And so all of those business expenses show up there as well because I can include it as overall spending for my entire lifestyle. And probably the biggest expense when it comes to my business expenses, believe it or not, is actually the tax liability that I have from the income that I generate from the business. So more specifically, self-employment tax. And I consider that to be a business expense, not when it comes to my tax return, only whatever is allowable to be deducted on there. I mean personally that I am only incurring this tax because I have the business itself. And so it's going to go under the business category. For example, if I paid $1,200 in self-employment tax, that's $100 per month of a business expense when it comes to my personal accounting. So I'm like, well, I'm paying that $100 per month in tax because I have the business. And so it's going to fall under the business category when it comes to my personal spending. Other major expenses you would say that are associated with this business include web hosting for the websites. It includes the domain names for the websites. It includes online courses that I take to try to become better, and it includes the editing software. So while having an online business is very cheap compared to having like a regular physical business, it still does have expenses and you still need to account for that. I have one more category to go over with you here, but before I do, this leads me to the big question. I want to know from you in the comments below. How does your spending compare to mine? How does your total annual spending or your budget categories compare to mine? Do you find any of these categories to be very high or very low compared to what you experience in your life? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. And now getting on to the last category, which surprisingly is my lowest spend category, and that is auto. So I have one vehicle and everything associated with the expenses of that vehicle is going to be included in this category. So for my car, I spent $1,179 this year. And that averaged out to $98 per month. This is one that was actually the closest to what I planned on spending because I budgeted for $100 per month. And I'm very thankful because I've had another year where my car has been very reliable and has not had any kind of major issues. The only minor issue that I had was I did get a flat tire, and so I had to have that replaced, but that was a very easy issue to fix and was not too costly. I'd like to think that perhaps the reason why my vehicle has been so good to me over these years is that I follow the manufacturer's recommended scheduled maintenance, and I do like a check on the vehicle, like a general check every 2 weeks of the tires and the fluid levels and the lights and all that good stuff. And I just want to make sure that I notice something before something bad happens. And I also did a lot of DIY maintenance that I've never done before. So I had someone that had more experience that helped me out, and I was able to actually replace the brake pads on the car itself and the rotors that go on there as well. So that was definitely a learning experience, and I saved a lot of money by doing that myself. And not only that, but I also replaced the spark plugs in the vehicle as well, and I definitely saved hundreds of dollars by doing so. Overall, I am very satisfied with my spending in 2023, and I hope that next year is going to be just as good. Like I mentioned before, I did a video on my total spending last year that I definitely want you to check out to see how it compares to this year. And I plan on doing this every single year as well. If you're curious in watching last year's video, I'm going to put it on the screen right after I get off the screen, and I'll put it in a link in the comments below as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashFlow.com, and I hope to see you next time. And now getting onto the last category, and probably the busiest.